Hello from Singapore. Welcome to the Ministry of Guitar YouTube channel. I'm Utkarsh Mohan. Subscribe to us for structured reviews, an unbiased point of view, and an international perspective. Today on the Ministry of Guitar, we check out a modern living legend, the mythical Paul Reed Smith Modern Eagle 1. Typically in guitar lore, usually vintage guitars are accorded mythical or legendary status, such as the 1959 Les Paul, pre-CBS Stratocasters, and what have you. There are a few modern guitars, however, that build up a mythical following as well, either due to rarity, either due to what they were made of, either due to the story behind them. And this guitar over here definitely falls into this category. This is the Paul Reed Smith Modern Eagle 1. Some of you who follow news recently may know the Modern Eagle 5, but that's a completely different guitar. And let me tell you a little bit more about the modern history lineage. So the Modern Eagle 1 was launched in 2004 to some fanfare. And the reason for that was that it had a story behind it that was almost a myth in the making. To begin with, it had a solid Brazilian rosewood neck. Now, Brazilian rosewood, for those of you who don't know, is an extremely restricted wood species. It's classified on the same level as elephant ivory, for example. So that's how restricted it is. So any Brazilian rosewood used on guitars has to have been cut before a certain date and has to have a very clear chain of showing where it was cut and how it was not, how it was not illegally or otherwise harvested. So Brazilian rosewood isn't really used. Like if you look at Gibson, for example, just to get a Brazilian rosewood fretboard, not even the whole neck, that's a ridiculous price on like something like an R9. But at that point in time, this came with a whole neck made of Brazilian rosewood, which did get PRS into trouble, but we'll come to that a bit later. So there was that. Then it had satin nitro finish. So this is slightly different from the regular high gloss finishes. Makes for an extremely, very different and I would say extremely cool vibe. I really like it. So that was different about it. And it had something called RP pickups named after a PRS employee, which were very on the bright side. Now we get into the story of what happened next, and we'll also get a story into what happened with this guitar. The Modern Eagle 1 had been produced for a few years, and then they had to stop production. So there were some guitars that were almost fully built, but they couldn't ship it out to dealers. There were some guitars that were half built. There were some guitars that were just blanks of wood. They were all over the place. But Paul Reed Smith had to stop. And then later on, Paul Reed Smith went on to make the Modern Eagle 2, which was similar to the Modern Eagle 1, but with Indian rosewood neck, so not that much of a problem. And then there was a Modern Eagle 3 and a bunch of them after that. And we'll cover the entire history of the Modern Eagle line at a different time. But coming back to the Modern Eagle 1, circa 2011-2012, the PRS got the green light to get back into, to confirm that all their wood is okay and they can use it. And so they re-released the Modern Eagle 1 with and again, different states. So some guitars that were already fully made were shipped out. So they were almost exactly the same spec as the original ones. Some guitars that were not exactly fully made, or they were in different states, were upgraded with the latest PRS developments. And this is one of them. So the big upgrade on this one is that they shifted to 5708s, and 5708 pickups, for anyone who doesn't know about it, are possibly one of the most critically renowned PRS pickups out there. So today, Modern Eagle ones are well known because, and we'll get into the specs and we'll get into how the guitar sounds later. But the Brazilian rosewood neck, combined with everything about this guitar, does make it a very special guitar. So everyone who's played it, if I was just to cite some people that you might encounter on YouTube, Robert Baker had extremely good things to say about the Modern Eagle one. Rob Chapman played one many years ago, and he's always said that that's something that he wish he had bought or he could buy someday. So the Modern Eagle one is that kind of guitar. It's the guitar that literally no one has a bad thing to say about. Not too many people have played it because they are rare, and it's made in a way that is not possible to make it again. So you can still get solid Brazilian rosewood necks now in PRS, but those are on private stocks and an extremely expensive option, and even that will go away in some time as soon as the Brazilian rosewood reserve that PRS has runs out. So which will make this guitar even more of a mythical thing in years to come. So let's start off as always with the case. This is what at least was, I don't know if it still is, the PRS artist case. So it's a softer texture, it's almost like a fabric kind of texture, it's dark in color with brown leather on the side, on both sides, and gold handles versus the standard silver handles that you would see, or nickel handles that you would see on a regular case. Like all PRSs, very heavy, very sturdy case, and a very nice action to open the latches. All right, let's open it up. Ooh, just look at that flame. I'm just gonna shift that. That is one ridiculous looking guitar, and we're just going to reveal it. Now you see why this is called Yellow Tiger. This is a tiger in all of its glory. The blue insides of the case are very nice. They complement the Yellow Tiger finish really well. So let's have a look at what we get inside. Opening up the standard very large PRS case compartment, one of the reasons I like PRS cases. You have the tremolo arm. These are the strap locks that I have installed, so ignore those. Okay, this is a notice of baggage inspection by the TSA. Very interesting. This guitar was bought from Wilcut Guitars originally, so here's what you can see. Another one from Wilcut Guitars. Very good. More stuff from Wilcut Guitars. Wow, they really do fill it up with what they did. The standard Paul Reed Smith. I think this is the warranty. Which most people don't bother filling. This is important though. This is the certificate. This is the bird card, as I call it. This tells you what you need to know. This is a Modern Eagle. Serial number, pattern neck, 2012 with 5708s. Wonderful pickups, which we will get into later. The key for the case, which I have never opened. The standard issue PRS sticker. More PRS. Oh, this is the manual, which again I never bother reading. This is a receipt for the sale of the guitar. Won't show you too much of that. PRS accessories, some sort of brochure. Okay, very good. Good to know. Truss rod, adjuster, wrench. Don't know why I'm not able to get it to focus. I guess it's too busy focusing on the guitar. But okay, you just take my word for it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And important, inspect this shipment as soon as it's received. Okay, cool. So yeah, there you have it. That's what you get inside the case of this very beautiful Yellow Tiger satin nitro finish Modern Eagle one. So starting from the top, what you will notice is that the Modern Eagle one has it has an eagle insignia, the Modern Eagle insignia. So typically the eagle insignia on the headstock is reserved for private stock guitars, but Modern Eagle is one of those core guitars that got an eagle insignia, different from the private stock insignia. Though That said, the latest Modern Eagle is now a private stock guitar. There is no more core Modern Eagles like you see here. Um, Solid Brazilian rosewood neck, solid Brazilian rosewood fretboard. Brazilian rosewood is necks, and these are not unfinished necks, but these are lightly finished, or just lightly oiled necks. So they are possibly, this rosewood necks in general, not necessarily Brazilian rosewood, are possibly the easiest thing in the world to play. They are so smooth. Regardless of whether you come from a gloss background or a satin background, once you start playing rosewood neck guitars, you will probably not go back. You just can't. Um, I like my other guitars as well, but I always acknowledge that there is nothing like this kind of a neck. Brazilian rosewood comes in many different shades. Some of them are extremely dark and chocolatey, some of them are lighter, some of them are less stripy, some of them are more stripy. On this guitar, it's extremely stripy, and that is actually one of the reasons why I was super attracted to this. It's not the darkest Brazilian rosewood, but for me, the striping pattern, which looks like a tiger stripes, was just too good, given that the color of this guitar, which we'll get into, is called yellow tiger. So yellow tiger, tiger stripes on the neck, just meant to be. Moving on, the other thing to note about the Modern Eagle is that the frets are subtly different, and when you play them, you realize that they are not exactly what you would be used to, regardless of whether you play a PRS, Fender, or a Gibson. The best way to describe it is that they require a lighter touch. So, someone like me who I've realized has a very heavy left hand. I didn't know this, but then I compared with my bandmates. It is a bit of a learning process, and it's a bit of. I'm not saying that you can't play it, but you definitely feel it's a touch different. You get used to it, but something to be aware of. If you have a light touch, it's great because bar chords and everything just fly out. So it rewards the light touch, so to speak. Moving on to the body, you've got a maple top and a mahogany body. As you can see, the maple top is very high grade of flame maple, and it's covered, finished in satin nitro. And this color, as I mentioned earlier, is called yellow tiger, which is the absolute business. Pardon me using cliches like that, but it is. Specs, electronics wise, you've got the 5708s, known for their clarity. 5708s again are using the same pickup wire used from the same machines that Gibson used in the 1950s. 57 refers to the year that they're inspired by, 1957. 2008 is the year that they came out. It's got the PRS Gen 2 trem, which is any PRS trem, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 3 private stock. All of them are amazing. So, a trem on a PRS for me is the highlight. It's a no compromise trem. You can do whatever you like and it stays in tune. It's not like a Floyd, which has you spending months and years of your life trying to figure it out. Volume and tone standard with a 3-way switch and a coil split. So that pretty much covers the specs of the guitar. It's also pretty light. I would say this is less than 8 pounds, maybe 7 something. So it's an effortless feel. And sorry, I forgot to tell you about the neck. The neck is called Pattern. So Pattern is PRS's updated wide fat. The wide fat was very similar to a Gibson neck. Pattern, I feel, is a little bit more modern. It's a bit smaller. And the other thing to note is on a rosewood neck guitar, necks automatically feel slightly smaller. So a Pattern mahogany neck with a gloss finish will feel completely different to a Pattern rosewood neck. And rosewood will just feel smaller. It's not a bad thing. I know some people prefer chunky necks. I'm one of them, but the small, minuscule, micro nanometer difference that rosewood makes actually feels really good. So for me, the neck is also one of the highlights on this guitar. For me, this is one of the clearest guitars that you will get. And it has one of the guitars which has a very nice resonance to it. And I'll get into why both of these things happen. The reason why it's clear is down to the pickups. 5708s are really good. I was not the biggest fan of 5708s when I first got them many years ago on my Custom 22, but playing more in a band with more guitarists, because my band has more guitarists now, and all of these things has led me to appreciate clarity and cut through, and that's what the Modern Eagle has in spades. Clarity also helps this guitar take gain extremely well. And I think this guitar possibly has one of the best rock voices. If you play in a rock band, this is possibly the best guitar you have. I would say even compared to a 594. A 594 is very nice, but this will cut through, I think, a bit better than the 594. And playing live when you're sweating and stuff like that, there's nothing quite like a rosewood neck. Let's talk a little bit about the harmonic content and how the sweetness of the sound. Brazilian rosewood for me, to my ear, to my very untrained ear, amateur ear, does a couple of things compared to all other things being equal. It adds a strat-like character. I don't know what that is, but when I put this in single coil mode, I find that I like it gives me that almost, the percussive. Strats have a certain thing, you can get a snap out of it, which you don't get out of a Les Paul or typical PRSs, but whether it is on my 513 or it is on this guitar, compared to another guitar with the same pickups but with a mahogany neck, you get a snap. That said, it does not quite have the real snap and percussive character of a maple neck. So if you are looking for something extremely bright, a maple neck guitar is probably better for you. And Brazilian rosewood also helps give some sort of harmonic content, which is subtle, but you probably don't notice it when you hear it, but as a player, you can definitely feel it and it makes a difference to you. So my thoughts on this guitar, as I mentioned earlier, this is the perfect rock guitar. It is also a very, very solid investment if you can get your hands on one. I don't really recommend buying guitars for investment because who knows which way the market will go, and I don't really look eye to eye with the concept of just buying a guitar and never playing it and just having it for collection. But this is possibly a solid collection or investment piece, because Brazilian rosewood, it's not something you can get outside of private stock now. These guitars are still not that expensive. They still retail for the same amount of money that they were when they were new, which you might say is expensive, but honestly, it's not that expensive given what these guitars have and their historic value as well, being the first of the long line of Modern Eagle series. So on build quality, I give this guitar, like I typically give all PRSs, 10 out of 10. Nothing to fault. Absolutely perfect. Finish is great. Frets are perfect. Electronics are perfect. It's perfect. It's 10 out of 10. Most core PRSs. Sounds. I give this guitar a 9 out of 10 on sound actually. I believe it's extremely clear. It's got a place in the band. And it's fairly versatile. The 5708s take gain really well, so you can still play like really heavy gain metal stuff. At the same time, the clarity of this guitar and the slightly strat-like character that I find due to the Brazilian rosewood neck helps you play your David Gilmour with no problem as well. Playability, Brazilian rosewood neck, double cutaway, perfect lightweight. I would say this is as playable a guitar as you would get. I'm tempted to give it a 9 out of 10. But I'm going to give it, for its intended purpose, I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Brazilian gives you a extra edge which just drives the playability up. Appeal. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So actually, this guitar is going to get a pretty high score. I'm realizing. Appeal, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I mean, it's super desirable, but you know, there will always be the person who will find it to be a bit hyped up. So just for that person who will troll you and who will dislike this guitar, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. But I was tempted to give it a 10 out of 10 on appeal. Value for money. So typically, as you know, I don't rate PRSs very high on value for money, not because they aren't great guitars, but because they are expensive. And let's acknowledge you can get the job done for much lower. But given that this guitar is what it is, it's rare, and it will only go up in value, I will give this a 9 out of 10 on value for money. Unless you break it, or you do something stupid with it, or you turn it into a mod project, you're not going to lose money on this guitar. So you're going to enjoy a very nice guitar. The only challenge will be getting the cash up front. So adding up the scores: build quality 10 out of 10, sounds 9 out of 10, playability 10 out of 10 again, appeal 9 out of 10, and value for money 9 out of 10. We are ending up with a very high score, the highest score ever, on my channel. 47 out of 50 for Paul Reed Smith Modern Eagle 1. So in summary, great guitar to play rock on, mythical status, massive feel-good factor. My advice to you is, if you can get your hands on a mint Modern Eagle 1, or even one that's slightly played, go ahead and grab it. I have a strong suspicion, and we'll revisit this maybe 5 years or 10 years in the future, that this guitar is just going to become one of those things. Good wood in general is getting rare. This guitar uses the highest quality of wood, so that in itself will make any guitar from the 2000s with great, or earlier with great quality woods, even even more desirable. And when something sounds and plays as good as it, so going back to this, right, this is not just about being a mythical guitar or being made of Brazilian rosewood and being the first Modern Eagle. No, this is a damn amazing guitar to play. The satin finished neck, the slightly oiled neck, the satin finished body, everything just, and the lightweight, everything just and the ergonomics, everything just combines to make it the perfect guitar. This is for me, this is a legend that truly lives up to the hype. And yeah, and at this point in time, this is not that much money. That's all I really have to say. This is one of the best guitars I have, and one of the best guitars I have ever owned. If you're on the fence, go get it. All right, I hope this was helpful. Till next time.